San Diego Comic-Con 2025 is almost upon us, and with that, I already know I'll be spending this weekend glued to trailers, live streams, and announcements the second they hit the internet. Because this weekend's shaping up to be huge. Not just because of the stars or the spectacle, but because so many of the stories we've been following for years are hitting turning points. Some endings, some bold new beginnings. So let's break down what's coming, and what we're all most excited for. Thursday kicks off with Percy Jackson and the Olympians, which finally gave fans a faithful adaptation in Season 1. And Season 2 promises even bigger stakes with the Sea of Monsters. Also on Thursday, Amazon's bringing its Critical Role doubleheader. The Legend of Vox Machina returns for Season 4, and the Mighty Nine series, taking place 20 years later in the same world of Exandria, gets its first proper spotlight. With its own unique tone, this growing animated universe could be Amazon's next breakout fantasy world. And then there's Twisted Metal Season 2. Look, with video game adaptations having such a questionable history, not many people expected this show to work, but somehow it did. And now Season 2 promises more chaos, more clowns, and fan favorite from the games Axel joining the iconic tournament as it finally kicks off for real. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is also showing up, and we already know Blumhouse knows how to make a splash. Expect lore teases, animatronic terror, and probably the announcement of Matthew Lillard being even more unhinged. A few last worthwhile mentions on Thursday include The Strangers Chapter 2, Red Sonja, and The Toxic Avenger, all nostalgia fueled potential wildcards with a healthy dose of camp. Friday is where things get darker. FX's Alien Earth is arguably the most intriguing mystery of the weekend, especially with the show set to premiere in just a couple of weeks. And there's also Predator Badlands coming from the same franchise. With Prey director Dan Trachtenberg returning and that incredible first trailer that just dropped, the Alien and Predator franchise seems to be in good hands. Also, Tron Ares. It's been years in development, and now thanks to recent trailers, we've finally gotten to see what it looks like. Neon, synths, existential questions about code. You know the drill. And before we move on, I'd be remiss if I didn't at least give an honorable mention to Resident Alien and The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, both of which also have panels on Friday. And then, Saturday, known for being the biggest day of the con. Paramount beams in with the Star Trek Universe panel. We're expecting news on Strange New Worlds and Starfleet Academy, so yeah, Trekkies, stay locked in. Then it's time for Project Hail Mary. Ryan Gosling, Space Amnesia, directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, this one could be the Interstellar of 2026. And of course, the DC Universe panel. After the smash hit of Superman, James Gunn is finally showing more of his cards. Expect to focus on the DC Universe's first show, next month's Peacemaker, but also news on next year's Lanterns, Supergirl, and Clayface, and maybe what's beyond. This is DC's chance to reboot its legacy for real. And I have to admit I'm intrigued by Coyote vs. Acme. It's Looney Tunes meets courtroom comedy meets who even knows. But with John Cena as a villainous corporate attorney and the movie surviving its own canceled release, it's certainly at least a curiosity. Finally, AMC's Immortal Universe returns with Interview with the Vampire and Talamasca The Secret Order. Moody, tragic, and dripping with atmosphere, these shows are everything your inner goth didn't know it needed. So yeah, trailers, surprises, cast reunions, they're all coming. But what I'm most excited for? Learning where these stories are headed, continuing the character arcs I've been following, the unexpected emotional gut punches, and the quiet little details that fans will be unpacking for months. I'll no doubt be covering a few of the biggest reveals all weekend, so subscribe if you want to see more. Let me know in the comments what you're most excited for, or what you're hoping finally gets announced. And remember, fan events like Comic Con aren't just about studios and streamers building hype, they're about connection. See you online.